Have you ever wondered why Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most provocative and controversial philosophers in history, expressed a deep rejection of human weakness? Far from being mere disdain, his ideas concealed a radical vision of life, strength, and personal growth. For Nietzsche, weakness was not just a physical or emotional condition, but a mental state that stifled human potential and perpetuated a purposeless existence. In this video, we'll delve into the roots of this thought and how Nietzsche connected weakness with morality, religion, and the society of his time. We'll uncover how his philosophy challenges comfort, advocates for the courage to face life authentically, and invites us to question our own limitations. Get ready for a journey to the heart of Nietzsche's ideas, where confronting weakness becomes the first step toward true strength and greatness. Join us on this fascinating exploration. Weakness is not only about self-deception, it also breeds resentment. Nietzsche believed that when people fail to achieve their desires or overcome their own limitations, they begin to develop a kind of bitterness. They convince themselves that what they cannot attain is not worth having. This is more than simply dismissing the unattainable. It is a dangerous form of dishonesty. Instead of acknowledging their own failures, they degrade the very things they once desired, convincing themselves they never cared about them in the first place. A modern example of this is the nice guy archetype. The so-called nice guy may present himself as kind, patient, and understanding, but deep down he often harbors resentment. Why? Because he feels entitled to something, typically romantic affection, that he has not earned. When that affection doesn't come, he becomes bitter, devaluing the very qualities he once claimed to value. Nietzsche would see this as a form of weakness. Rather than confronting his own deficiencies, the nice guy hides behind a facade of moral superiority. He becomes dishonest with himself and others, all because he cannot face the reality of his own failures. Nietzsche's concept of the organized will is central to his philosophy. For him, weakness is a form of disorganized will. Those who lack an organized will cannot direct their efforts toward achieving their goals. Their desires are scattered, their actions unfocused. They move from one thing to another without commitment, deceiving themselves about what they truly want. Strength, on the other hand, comes from an organized will, a focused and determined mind that can overcome obstacles. Nietzsche admired those who could not only set goals, but also remain steadfast even in the face of adversity. He called this self-overcoming, the ability to surpass your limitations and pursue your goals with consistency and dedication. It is not about talent, according to Nietzsche. It is about the ability to harness your willpower and direct it toward a singular purpose. The weak, in contrast, are those who cannot commit to their desires, who deceive themselves about their true motivations. This inability to organize their will makes them ineffective, leading lives of mediocrity, weakness, and lack of trust. Nietzsche also believed that weakness erodes trust. In his eyes, weak individuals, those who cannot commit to their goals, who lack consistency, become unreliable. They are the ones who say one thing and do another, who cannot keep their word or follow through with their commitments. Take, for example, Malenkov in The Death of Stalin. His indecision and inability to act made him someone unreliable in the eyes of those around him. He was untrustworthy, and in a system where trust was essential, his weakness created chaos. Nietzsche believed that weak people, due to their inconsistency and dishonesty, could not be trusted. Trust is vital in any relationship, whether personal or social. Without it, everything crumbles. Nietzsche's critique of compassion was sharp. For him, compassion was not a virtue but a form of weakness. And not only was the person receiving compassion weak, but so was the one offering it. Compassion, Nietzsche argued, weakens. When we feel compassion for someone, we reinforce their victimhood and dependency, making them weaker in the process. Think about it. When you feel compassion for someone, are you really helping them, or are you somehow reinforcing the idea that they cannot help themselves? Nietzsche contrasted compassion with magnanimity. A truly strong person, he believed, does not feel compassion for others. Instead, they help others by encouraging them to be strong as well. Magnanimity means elevating others in a way that fosters self-sufficiency, not dependence. Compassion, on the other hand, keeps people trapped in their weakness, turning it into a dangerous form of dishonesty. Nietzsche's critique of weakness did not stop at individuals. He also saw it in philosophy itself. He railed against what he called philosophies that deny life, such as those of Socrates and Schopenhauer. For Nietzsche, these philosophies promoted resignation, passivity, and acceptance of life's difficulties instead of the will to overcome them. Socrates and Schopenhauer, in Nietzsche's view, promoted pessimism, the idea that life is fundamentally flawed or not worth living. Nietzsche saw this as the ultimate expression of weakness. When people adopt this attitude, it is because they cannot face life's challenges. They develop a cynical view of the world, denying the value of life itself. For Nietzsche, this was a dangerous and dishonest way of thinking, a form of self-deception born of weakness and negation of life. But Nietzsche did not only criticize weakness, he offered a powerful alternative that sharply contrasted with the passive acceptance of suffering. This alternative was summed up in the concept of amor fati, or love of fate. For Nietzsche, this was not simply enduring life's difficulties, but actively embracing everything that life throws at us, including suffering and adversity. He believed that rejecting life's challenges or wishing for a life without suffering was a denial of life itself. Instead, he proposed that by fully accepting each experience, both pleasurable and painful, one could transcend weakness and find true strength. Amor fati called for an attitude of radical acceptance, where people not only tolerate their circumstances, but learn to love them, understanding that every event, no matter how painful, is a necessary part of their journey. Nietzsche argued that suffering and difficulties were intrinsic to human existence, and instead of viewing them as negatives, he saw them as essential components of personal growth. Loving one's own fate meant recognizing that these challenges were not obstacles to avoid, but opportunities to embrace and use as catalysts for transformation. In this way, Nietzsche's philosophy offered a path to empowerment, where individuals could transform their suffering into a source of strength and resilience. Nietzsche's concept of amor fati was not just theoretical. It was deeply rooted in his own life experiences. His life was marked by immense personal suffering. He struggled with chronic illness, endured intense loneliness, and faced rejection from both his peers and society. Despite these difficulties, Nietzsche did not succumb to despair. Instead, he integrated these experiences into his philosophical perspective, using them as raw material for his ideas. He believed that our struggles, far from being pointless or something we should resent, are what shape us into stronger and more authentic individuals. By overcoming adversity, Nietzsche argued, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and achieve a richer, fuller existence. For him, this was the ultimate triumph of the human spirit. Weakness as a social contagion, Nietzsche was deeply concerned that weakness could spread like a disease, infecting not just individuals, but entire cultures. He feared that certain philosophies that denied life and rejected the pursuit of strength, power, and vitality would gain popularity and spread throughout society. These philosophies, such as nihilism and excessive pessimism, promoted resignation to fate rather than the active creation of one's own destiny. Nietzsche was alarmed at the prospect of such beliefs becoming widespread because they could erode the inner strength and will to power that he considered essential for human flourishing. For Nietzsche, weak individuals were not merely a personal burden. They represented a profound threat to society at large. He viewed them as carriers of destructive ideas, capable of pulling others into their despair and pessimism. In Nietzsche's perspective, weakness, whether of spirit, will, or action, was infectious, spreading like a disease that could lead entire societies into passivity and moral decline. Instead of engaging with life through strength and creativity, people risked succumbing to collective resignation, allowing weakness to dictate their existence. This, he argued, was a form of social contagion that could erode the cultural and creative foundations of progress. If left unchecked, the embrace of weakness could result in mediocrity, the erosion of vitality, and ultimately, the collapse of civilization. To counter this, Nietzsche emphasized the need for individuals and societies to cultivate strength, embrace the challenge of self-overcoming, and reject the nihilistic tendencies that arise from surrendering to weakness. Only through this relentless striving could humanity preserve its creative power and prevent the stagnation of culture. Conclusion. What does Nietzsche's critique of weakness mean for us today? Weakness, in his view, transcends physical or mental frailty. It's about how we engage with truth, our inner selves, and the world around us. Nietzsche challenges us to confront our vulnerabilities, to face life honestly, and to channel our willpower toward realizing our deepest aspirations. Where in your life do you see traces of weakness? Are you truly honest with yourself about your goals, limitations, and desires? Or are you hiding behind self-deception, avoiding the uncomfortable truths of reality? Take a moment to reflect on these questions. Nietzsche's philosophy invites us to embark on a path of self-overcoming, a journey of surpassing our limits and embracing life's challenges fully. It's about cultivating inner strength, consistency, and an unwavering honesty with ourselves and others. By doing so, we move beyond mere existence and step into a life of purpose and vitality.